As a Canadian, I can tell you our country's known for a few basic things. Hockey, nice-looking politicians, beautiful women, intelligent rock and rolling singer-songwriters, and comedians. And today, unfortunately, September 14, 2021, we lost one of our big shining lights. I think today is comparable when John Candy passed away, not because this guy was as big a star as John Candy, but he was a star in his own right, the comedian's comedian, and a person that probably had the most wicked sense of humor for any what do you call Canadian shining light of the stage, of the screen. Member of Saturday Night Live for a number of years, rocked the house every evening. Of course, we have to be talking about the late, great Norm Macdonald. Now, Norm, I guess, died after a private battle with cancer over a long while. He was more well-known for being a part of Saturday Night Live. He hosted Weekend Update for several years, especially in the 1990s. But where he got his start in Canada, he was doing what I call the chicken and poutine circuit, the stand-up across Canada. He was dealing with Yuck Yuck, Just for Laughs, but his TV and what I call concert appearances started getting word about because of his weird sense of humor. He's sort of like soliloquies. He wasn't as freaky soliloquies as Bill Hicks, but it was very interesting because there was an edge to him. And like any good rock and roll comedian, you look at Lenny Bruce and similar, he drew from various influences because his background was very diverse. He came from a family of very successful individuals, but he looked at the world in his own unique way. Now, the column, CBC did an article on him today, and I'm going to quote for a little bit about them, but he said, they call him an influential cast member. I don't think influential is the right word. He was a shit-disturbing cast member. He's various impersonations. What he stood up for in the Michael Jackson and O.J. Simpson cases is well known. Eventually, according to all published reports, it got him fired. Now, the news came down from the entertainment site Deadline. Now, Macdonald's manager, and what's weird about Norm has spelled his own name. He's a Macdonald, M-E-C, but he doesn't capitalize his D. Now, his manager, Mark Gervitz of Brillstein Entertainment, also confirmed his death to CBC News. Now, born in Quebec City on October 17, 1959, he was the son of two school teachers and spending his early years as a stand-up comedian touring across Canada. Very, very interesting family dynamic because one of his brothers worked for the CBC, which is funny in itself. Now, after he got discovered, he went on to write for shows like Roseanne and Dennis Miller Show in the early 1990s, before going on to host Saturday Night Live's iconic segment Weekend Update from 94 to 97. And this was must-see television because you never know what's going to happen. His jokes would go over like a Led Zeppelin, while other times it would hit it out in the park. Now, after leaving Saturday Night Live in those weird circumstances regarding management's attitudes towards him, he created and started the comedy The Norm Show for ABC, playing a former NHL player kicked out of the league for gambling and tax evasion, and forcing the community service as a social worker. Now, Macdonald was known for his laconic deadpan voice and for his impressions, including his hilarious take on Burt Reynolds, who famously gave Will Ferrell's Alex Trebek character grief on Saturday Night Live's recurring Celebrity Jeopardy sketch. He also impersonated Bob Dole, Larry King, and David Letterman. Norm was top rank of our generation, said Mark Breslin, co-founder of the Yuck Yucks chain of comedy clubs. He was always trying to find a joke that was not the easy way of telling the joke, but a more difficult way of telling the joke. Now, fellow performers also took to Twitter to share messages of condolence and grief. Conan O'Brien said, Norm has the most unique comedy voice I ever encountered. He was so relentlessly and uncompromisingly funny. I will never laugh that hard again. I'm so sad for all of us today. I am absolutely devastated about Norm Macdonald. Now, according to Senator Bob Dole, Norm was a great talent and I love laughing at him on Saturday Night Live. Bob Dole will miss Norm Macdonald. Dave Foley of the Kids in the Hall. I can't believe Norm Macdonald is dead. First met him in the 1980s. I thought he was way too funny to be successful. I was half right. My deep sympathy to his family, close friends, and his fans. To so many people, in comedy be included, there was nobody funnier than Norm Macdonald, said Seth MacFarlane. You always hoped he would hang around after the work was done, just so you could hear his stories and get a laugh. So hilarious and so generous with his personality. I'm going to miss him. Now, one of the most interesting comments actually came from fellow Canadian comedian Jim Carrey, who said, my dear friend Norm Macdonald passed away for the brave 10-year battle with cancer. He was one of our most precious gems, an honest and courageous comedy genius. I love him. Now, according to Brent Butt of Corner Gas fame, of all the comedic minds I encountered in real life, Norm Macdonald was easily the most unique. Today the world lost a very, very funny man. We miss him already, said the great Eugene Levy of SCTV. Now, when you say comedians, when you think of Canadian comedians, you don't think safe. You look at Kids in the Hall, you look at the various Dan Aykroyd, the Saturday Night Live alumni, you look at, Jim Carrey, who is never on Saturday Night Live, but I'm talking, in living color. You got to make in the Canadian comedy scene, either nationally, internationally, you got to have a little bit of an edge. And of course, Norm Macdonald, it has to be seen to believe. A lot of the people didn't get his comedy because it was a slow burn, but he never deliberately did anything that he couldn't handle. He wasn't like a person to draw attention to himself, to be hateful or be condescending. He really believed in some of the stuff he was saying, which is dangerous for a comedian, because the more the comedian stays in reality, the more dangerous to become a parody of himself. But Norm Macdonald, the early sketches, I couldn't believe that somebody like that was trying out certain materials. I think especially a skit where he was, accidentally killed some of his neighbors in a misinformation sketch. It was quite weird. But I grew up with a whole bunch of comedians like this, and Bill Hicks was the best. So if you take Bill Hicks and give it a little bit of Canadian swirl, a little bit of maple syrup on Bill Hicks, and you tone it down a little bit, if you can do that with Bill Hicks, God bless his soul too, that would be Norm Macdonald. And the biggest joke about everybody in the world, we needed Norm Macdonald to parody or make fun of certain politicians out there that needed a step back, and maybe was too sick to do that. But the biggest memory I have of the O.J. Simpson case, he was the only person standing up and saying, this is really messed up, and he was serious when he needed to be. He was angry when he needed to be. And all I can say, the best Norm Macdonald out there was Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald exists across the world, ladies and gentlemen. Your neighbor or uncle that's not scared to tell a dirty joke and kind of smiles when he does it, but he's the life of the party. Norm Macdonald was the life of the party for a lot of people because he had the courage to say what he's going to say. But like I said, double deadpan, I think that best sums it up. Because you don't know he was joking. But you know what the funniest part is? How he's going to be most remembered for a lot of people? He was the host who introduced the Hanukkah song with Adam Sandler. And that was kind of like a passing of the torch a little bit. Because you can't think of a Hanukkah song other than, with Norm Macdonald being part of it. So, Saturday Night Live alumni, we've lost some really gems over the last number of years, Gilda Radner, Chris Farley, everybody else. But I'm not going to think of him on Saturday Night Live at first. I'm going to think about his early stand-up appearances where I was saying, who's going to discover this guy? And sure enough, he got discovered. And, he didn't just belong to Canada, he belonged to the world. So Norm Macdonald, thanks for the jokes, thanks for the memories, and the best thing I can say, live from heaven, I'm Norm Macdonald. Have a good day. Bye.